guys, today we're gonna do a little something different. So my neck's been pretty sore. I messed it up, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna rebuild some of these old Tau Fire Warriors. Um, so I got a bunch of Fire Warriors in a lot back in the day, and they were not in the best shape. Really thick paint jobs, so they've been soaking in some Simple Green uh, and some LAO Totally Awesome. And some of the other things I use as strip models, pretty near 3 years. So they've been in there quite a while. And what we're going to do is we're going to convert these guys up to be a kill team. So I've gone through my bits box. I have a pretty substantial amount of Tau bits from over the years of all the Tau I've built. I have probably close to 150 Fire Warriors at this point. So this is my bits box, pretty full. We're gonna go. We went through it, grabbed out some bits last night. We're gonna go ahead and put these guys together today, making a unique-ish type fire team, kill team here. Fire Warrior kill team. Gonna be a mix of breachers, strike squad, and 3 pathfinders as well. So five regular Fire Warriors, 2 breachers, and 3 pathfinders. Alright, so we're going to just clean up these kits a little bit, make sure that all the contact points are nice and clean, so we get a good bond with our glue. Going to try to hide a little bit of this older paint behind some of these the pieces, the bits and pieces. I tried to pick out some really cool, unique head sculpts and everything. So yeah, going ahead and doing some converting here. Obviously, got some older Tau bodies with some newer Tau backpacks, guns, helmets. Almost nothing on any of these is going to be original. A few of them, I think 2, maybe 3. 3 of them are keeping their original legs. Everybody else is getting new legs. I think I'm saving 5 of the original heads because they still had the antenna on them. I didn't have to replace antennas, which is always nice. It's one thing that's lacking. There used to be an eBay bit store called Hordo Bits. I'm not sure it still exists on there, or if they sell Games Workshop bits anymore. I haven't bought it in a while, but I bought back in the early 2000s, probably 2008 or maybe 2009. I bought a bunch of Tau antennas off there for conversions, and at this point I've almost used those all up. I do have a bunch of spare shoulder pads now because the new strike team, breacher team, you get 10 shoulder pads for each member, so you'll have 10 striker pads and 10 breacher pads, which is really nice. Because I did use quite a few shoulder pads back in the day for a lot of my conversions. I used to be really big on adding in auxiliary races to my Tau. Me and my brother Ray used to play basically exclusively just the 2 of us, and we were all about homebrewing and making things fun for ourselves. So I added quite a few auxiliary races that we then built our own little rules for. we did a lot of our own homebrewed Warhammer. Used the vehicle design rules quite a bit. Back in the infancy of our experience on the internet, really too as well. So we would use it a lot for finding really cool conversion. There used to be a bunch of forums that had really nice ideas for conversions on it, and we'd save tons of pictures on there of ideas of stuff we'd want to convert. Somewhere in one of my files should be a super intricate Tau hammerhead that's been converted to be like what do you call it? Like an Earthshaker basilisk from the Imperial Guard, but it's a hammerhead, so like a huge, giant magnetic railgun firing artillery type rounds instead of an actual shell. What we're gonna do with this helmet, because he's got a head, I don't like any of my guys going into battle without helmets, so he's gonna have his helmet taken off. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out all this area here and then down this way, and we'll remove all that so it looks like it's an actual helmet. Then I'll clip it onto his belt, so like he's taking his helmet off and hung it on his belt real quick to make it's a quick spot with these binos here, I guess. So this should be a really interesting project. Hoping that what little bit of paint I wasn't able to get off these guys is covered up really nicely with my primer. So once I get these guys built today, I'll probably prime them this afternoon, and then I'll post some photos on my Instagram and Twitter so people can see what they look like primed. And then there'll probably be a paint. It won't be right onto the paint queue because I am painting some models for Starship Troopers miniature game, the old Mongoose game. The nostalgia berries hit me. I was looking through some old photos and I saw this game that I played where my brother was running. I want to say my brother was running the Imperial Guard and the Mobile Infantry. His friend Kiefer was running the Arachnids, and I was running the Orcs. And we did this huge base assault where the Orcs and Tyranids assaulted the Imperial Guard slash Mobile Infantry's stronghold, and they weren't really teamed up though, because obviously that Orcs and Arachnids, that wouldn't be a real team, so they fought each other as well. So it was like a three-way battle. It was back when we first started getting into the game, so some of the models had some primer on them. A lot of them didn't even have that. They were just built. I hadn't really got back into painting much yet. I didn't have the right tools. I really was just learning about the game. But we were young, and he wanted to get games in and get his friends interested and see if they wanted to play more often, kind of thing. So that's what we were trying to build our meta at the time. And so the nostalgia berries hit me looking at these photos, and now I want to kind of replay this game, and I think I'm going to use the Xenos Rampant rules for it. So last night I pulled out, I still have all the models, so I pulled out all my Mobile Infantry and I went through, and they're pretty beat up. Probably been in box for 16 years. So had some broken guys I was able to go through and fix them. Most of the light armored Mobile Infantry, or the guys you would know from the TV the TV series, or the movies, I mean, the guys in that type of armor, they're all pewter models. So they need to be cleaned up. The pewters, the paint, the primed I originally primed them with is 80 to 90% just chipped off of them. So they are in the simple green bath right now. I got 20 of them in there, or maybe 21. I can't remember exactly if I put in one odd one just in case I wanted a different look. There's about 6 different sculpts, I want to say, maybe 7. 6 to 7 different sculpts for them. And then the plan, I don't need to scratch that. The plan is to get them stripped down, get a new primer coat on them, get them painted up. I got 10 Pathfinders and 10 of the normal mobile infantry, the armor that's kind of based off the cartoon series, if you've ever seen the cartoon series. And so that's going to be the basis of my force. So they're going to have a chicken walker as well as a vehicle. And I'll do up the points using the Xenos Rampant rules, get them all statted out. If anybody has any suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. More than willing to hear you guys out on what you guys think I should stat these guys as. I want to do a normal 24-point battle. And then for the arachnids, I'm going to use 2 5-man squads of arachnids, but they're going to get 2 wounds apiece, so they're going to be reduced model counts. Probably be heavy infantry using Xenos rules, probably. I have to look at it. They won't have it a shooting attack. Then I'll have a 5-man squad of the blasters, which will have a shooting attack. They'll be like the flame guys, right? And then maybe hoppers. I have a bunch of hoppers or rippers. I can do hoppers or rippers. And then what I'll do is I have the king, the king arachnid, or the tiger arachnids, I think is what they were called. I'll use him as like the leader, and so he'll be inside one of those 5-man squads of arachnids. And so my goal is today I gotta pull those guys out, make sure they're all painted up. I also have some of the spider arachnids, which I always liked. So they might be in there too, just depending on the points. I feel like the arachnids might be obviously more expensive point-wise, but they're going to be super close combat. They'll probably be berserk infantry would be my best guess to use them as berserk infantry. Really good on the offensive charge, right? But not really much of a shooting type faction. I'll just have to think about it. And then I might throw a tanker in there as well to give them a combat vehicle. I feel like the tanker would be a good point sink for them. We'll just see. So my goal for my next probably month of painting is going to be painting up these mobile infantry, about 41 models, and these arachnids, which will probably be maybe 18 models. I know if you watch the movies, it seems like there was always more arachnids, but I feel like to be balanced, the arachnids are so much bigger, and they're going to be so much stronger that they need less of them. Probably played out on a 4x4 table, and I will be rebuilding the original terrain piece that was in that game, and it's a nice huge bunker complex, and I still have the terrain in piece too. It's definitely seen better days. It's been moved around 3-4 different houses. It's made out of styrofoam and cardstock, and it's not in the greatest shape, but I think I can rebuild it just as it is, using techniques that I know now that I didn't know back then, right? And we'll use that to get build it back up. That'll be the last thing I do is building that thing back up, getting it nice and neat. Uh, what I do, I might pack it up with me, and when I go out and visit my family this summer, uh, get them to work on it with me. We'll see. Just depends on how my schedules line up. I might not be able to make that trip either. So just depends on how life goes, right? That's how everything is. So, anyways, yeah. We'll talk back to the Tau. Yeah. So back then we were just getting into the game. I started with Tau. Uh, they were by far my favorite faction at the time because I just got out of the Marine Corps and reading through like the fluff and the lore of the Warhammer. At the time, I thought that like, well, why in the name of everything that is holy would we go back to hand-in-hand combat as being our primary type of combat 40,000 years in the future when right now hand-to-hand combat's barely even thought about, right? Our hand-to-hand combat is not something that is anybody wants to be in. When you train hand-to-hand combat, right? It's one of the things that scares most people because like you are now engaged. It's a lot. It takes some of that skill that you have with a rifle and this ability of you removing your enemy before they have the chance to remove you out of the picture. Now it's all about the true skill, who's actually the better warrior, right? So it's hand-to-hand combat's a scary prospect in real life, and everybody's seen Saving Private Ryan, where that guy lets the German guy go, and then he comes back and he is the one who ends up he's the one that ends up killing the Jewish kid, right? They have their little tussle and stabs him with the knife. The poor guy doesn't know what happened, and if they just not let the German guy go, that wouldn't have happened. So hand-to-hand combat in futuristic combat just doesn't really make sense to me. But then I had to, as time went on, I realized, it's just a game. And, melee combat is actually kind of cool. So, what did I do? I joined the opposite side. I went from Tau, who everything's long range, hate close combat, to being a follower of Khorne, where shooting is for the weak and magic is for wimps. And now we are all about hand-to-hand combat, right? But I still have a huge soft spot for my Tau army. It's really a good sized army. Maybe 2 or 3 other people in America that might have as many stuff as me, and there's definitely people out there that have some larger items because I never got a Tau Manta. $2,000 just seemed like a big pill to swallow to get basically one big model that you never know how to use. I might eventually buy one. More likely we'll try to 3D print something that's similar to use that at this point in my life where like I have 3D printing capabilities. But I have about 20 different Hammerhead tanks, roughly 20 Hammerheads, different variants. Most of my turrets are magnetized, so they can be swapped between either the rail rifle variant or the ion cannon variant. But I also have one of the smart missile system variants from Forge World, as well as a 2 or three, I can't remember, 2 or 3 of each of the plasma cannons and the fusion cannon variants of the old Forge World Hammerhead turrets. I have 3 Skyrays, and then I have, roughly, I think I have 10 Devilfish. I could definitely use some more Devilfish. Not quite enough Devilfish. I wasn't huge on transports back in the day, I guess. Mostly got them because when you played 4th edition, you had to take a Devilfish with your Pathfinders, and I used to like running a lot of Pathfinders. And then I would never actually start my Pathfinders in that Devilfish. I'd start it empty and then have a squad jump in it, a different squad, and then fish a Fury it so it'd move up the board as fast as it could. The Firewares would jump out and use it as their mobile cover, and then it would have its missile pods on it, or the smart missile systems, my bad, and the smart missile systems could fire without needing line of sight and they ignored cover, so they were, and they had a little bit more range than your burst cannons. Burst cannons had 3 shots at 24-inch range, and the smart missile systems had, I want to say, 4 shots at 24-inch range. Obviously, you paid the premium for those shots. But that's we called it Fish of Fury. I was actually, starting off, I wasn't a huge Battlesuit fan. I think I had maybe 6 or 7 Crisis Battlesuits starting off. One had to be your commander. You always had to take a commander. And then I maybe had 2 3-man squads. I did really like the hazard suits from Forge World, but I never really got those until well after the switch between 4th and 5th edition. Almost to the end of 6th edition, I think, is when I finally got my hazard suits. And by then, Forge World was really not nearly as good or prominent as it kind of had been. I do like the Fusion Cascade hazard suits, though. They were my favorite. And then after that, I had broadsides, and I loved broadsides, so I had 9 broadsides back then when I first started. Now I think I have close to 16 broadsides. And a mix of the old style broadsides and the new style broadsides. And the way I it's kind of interesting, things have changed as time's progressed, right? And we've got new models and they've gotten larger. So the new broadside's quite a bit bigger than the old broadside. The old broadside came on a 40 mil base, and they were shoulder mounted, twin linked rail cannons, and arm mounted smart missile pods, right? So I would I did a lot of things to change, because you could also take plasma guns on them, so I did a lot of converting, and I put some underarm slung rail guns, and put shoulder mounted plasmas on some. 3 of them are the Forge World variant, so they have the smoother style armor. I wasn't above buying Forge World back then. I was in the military. I had decent money coming in, and I could make a Forge World order once every 3 or 4 months. It didn't bother me as much, knowing that I was getting a decent amount of really cool kits that I could add to my army, and it gave me a different type of flavor. But now when I want to say it was the end of 6th, beginning of 7th, the Tau got their big revamp. We got our flyer, the new plastic kit flyer. I'd already had 2 or 3 of the resin Barracudas from Forge World, and 2 the Tiger Sharks. But with the launch of the plastic kits, we had this plastic Razor Shark flyer and the Sun Shark bomber, and so I got a bunch of those to add to my force. Not that it didn't really replace anything that I already had, but it increased my Air Force, my Tau Air Force, obviously. But then we got the new plastic broadsides, which were quite a bit bigger. So, and my story's fluff for the broadsides is I have two variants of broadsides. I have the old test bed broadsides, which are based on the Crisis Suit chassis, and once it was proven as a reliable, viable platform, they went ahead and modified the chassis, bulked it up, gave it better stabilizers to counteract some of the problems we'd seen with the original designs. And so we have like the broadside Mark A's and the broadside Mark B's, basically. And the same thing with my stealth suits. When I started, there was no XV25s. They weren't out yet, so we had XV15s, and I have a lot of XV15s. I probably have 20 or 25 XV15 battle suits. The stealth suits, the older ones, that were pewter, and they were not much bigger than your actual Fireware, just a little bit bulkier and more squared up. And I love those. Those are by far my favorite stealth suits. And again, so they came out with XV25s, which are these bigger, bulkier kind of suits, and I probably have close to 12 or 13 of those. And I think my original plan was to do something similar to what they did in the Dawn of War game, where each of your squad of 6 stealth suits is led by an XV25. So 5 XV15s and 1 XV25 is like your squad leader, your Shasa L, right? But I ended up with way too many of the XV25s for this to be a 100% feasible plan, right? And like I stated before, I probably have dang near at least, I probably have more than 125, but at least 125 Fire Warriors, split up between breachers and strike. Oh no, I probably am closer to 200, because I think I'm up to 50 breachers now, with the newest set of guys that came out with the. I have the Warhammer Imperium subscription service, the magazine service, right? And then I got the premium variant, and so like every 3 months they give you an additional set of models. And the last one was the Firewars. I think it was 2 months back. I think I got those. So that was kind of cool. And so I used those to make another squad of breachers, and that bumped me up. I want to say I have 50 breachers now, if not more. I have a pretty large Tau army, right? I probably have close to 50 or 60 Pathfinders, probably 60, because of the newest set of Pathfinders that came out with that Kill Team box set where it was Tau versus Sisters of Battle. I know I made those. I have also another 10-man squad of Firewars. It's my original Kill Team. Back before this edition of Kill Team came out, I spent a lot of time playing Shadow War Armageddon and Kill Team using the Tau, and I had kind of built up some unique Tau Kill Team members, including my leader for my Kill Team is on the verge of becoming a Cadre Fireblade. Her next promotion will make her a Cadre Fireblade, basically, and I used sniper model from uh, War Games exclusive Skullforge Miniatures, or not Skullforge Miniatures, whatever his caster's name is. I know it's Skull something. I just can't remember off the top of my head what the second part is. Anyways, bunch of I have a bunch of his miniatures for the Tau, but for the most part, I think they're a tad bit too tall and maybe a little bit too bulky. They don't really fit in. Then after that, I bought a bunch of Riptides. I probably have 6, maybe 7 of the normal size Riptides, of the normal type Riptides, and then I have 2 of each of the Ford World variants. So 2 Ravaras and 2 Yavaras. 3 of each of the hazard suits. So I got 3 of the Phase Ions, 3 of the whatever the plasma is, plasma Cavaliades maybe, and then the fusion, 3 of the fusion guys. Some of my favorite fusion weapons on those guys. They did shorten their range down though. They're not out to 18-inch range. I think the last time I looked at their rules, they had like a 12-inch Melta range, which made them not nearly as useful as they used to be. And, I'm not even sure if they have rules or what their rules would be in 9th edition or even 10th edition. Now that we're getting closer to that. But they were pretty cool in 5th and 6th edition, 40k. Not so much probably in 7th, and then 8th. I do think they were in the Xenos book from Forge World. I just don't remember what their stats were. I do think they were too expensive, and that's why I think everything that was Forge World from the new Tau book was too expensive. So I think that's why a lot of people didn't even bother looking at that stuff. But maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm crazy. This is actually a gun from them. The people were just talking about the War Games exclusive, and he's going to be. Already has a built-in marker light. I would say that looks like a lot like a marker light. So, or this as a marker light 1 and 2. So this is going to be my chassis for this squad. Our chassis. He's going to be the leader of this squad for the strike team. I also have a leader for the Breachers and a leader for the Pathfinders. So each of the little subgroups kind of has their own little Shas element. But he's going to be the overall. He's going to be in charge of the full 10-man group, right? So that's the big breakdown of most of my Tau. I mean, I got lots of other stuff I probably haven't mentioned. Like I have 4 of the little stealth drones. I have a bunch of the sniper drones. I have so many drones. It's just a huge box of them. I have Tetras and Piranhas. So it's just a massive amount of Tau stuff. I even have, back in the day, I was on this website, and it still exists, you can still go on it, Advanced Tau Tactica. Used to use that site exclusively. I don't think it's probably nearly as popular as it used to be. Those type of forums seem to have died. Reddit, basically. Reddit, Twitter, those type of things have kind of taken over the modern take on all that. But back then, I used Advanced Style Tactic a lot, and there was this designer who seemed to be pretty good at casting, and he sculpted this entire large, huge. This is well before the Storm Surge was a thing, or the Talvar. Um, and he sculpted this thing up, and there used to be massive arguments on Advanced Style Tactic about whether the Tals would use something like this that was Titan-esque. And I always thought, like, well, yeah, we're not going to just rely on air. You can't always rely on air power to take out something like this. So obviously we're going to learn. We're not going to use the same clunky type mechanics that the Imperium uses. It's not like the Tower are technologically stagnant like a lot of the other races in 40K are. It's supposed to kind of be, right? So I saw no reason why the Tau would not take advantage of their technological means to maybe disassemble a destroyed Titan, look through it, figure out some things of how things were, and kind of make their own analog that would fit their aesthetics better, right? Because that's kind of the Tower always about, kind of overcoming and adapting to me. That's the way I saw them. And so this guy, he was from Australia. He designed this, and it was a huge four-legged walker thing, and a lot of people said it looked like a Ghost in the Shell spider tank, I want to say, if I remember right. I don't know. I've never really been much of a Ghost in the Shell fan, so I couldn't tell you if it looked like it or not. But I got one straight from him back when he was doing it. I don't remember how much it cost. It wasn't super cheap, and I remember it had to be shipped from Australia, so I had to pay the shipping. So it wasn't terribly cheap, but it wasn't so expensive as it competed with Forge World. And then I want to say shortly after I got mine, he ended up selling the mold, I want to say, to Chapter House Studios, if any of you remember them. And so Chapter House Studios was able to make and sell it for a while. Quite a while, actually, I think, before they went out of business. It's one of the things I think GW tried taking, and one of the things that was GW tried saying was infringing on their intellectual property, and everybody was like, oh no, you can't say that. Tau have never had anything like that before. So I want to say that was one of the ones that they lost on, but maybe I'm mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, so yeah, I have that. It's kind of a centerpiece of my army. It's almost fully painted. It's one of the last big pieces I did paint for my Tau army. It has seen better days. Obviously, like I said, I've moved quite a bit, and it is a resin model, and I was living in El Paso, Texas, which is super hot. So it did have a few pieces that warped out that made me sad. So with all this unique things I've added into my Tau army and some of the ideas and designs I've done, I wanted to come up with a story of why my Tau were so much different than a lot of other people's Tau, and we had so many different auxiliary races and things like that. So my brother, he's playing a mix of Imperial Guard and Space Marines at the time, mostly Imperial Guard, but every once in a while he'd run his Space Marines. And I was pretty exclusively a Tau player. So I came up with this kind of story that there was this area space between the Tau Imperium and the Ultima Segmenta, where the Ultramarines are basically out of, right? And this area space was been cut off. And it's not a huge area; it's just a small area, maybe a few hundred light years across, right? Not terribly huge, but large enough that it could have 3 dozen habitable planets in it, right? And these are resources that have never been accessible by the current state of the galaxy, because in my story, the way we were telling it, this area space had been cut off for ever since the Great Crusade, basically, when the warp storms first hit during the heresy, and for some reason here the warp storms never really abated, unlike other areas after the heresy where a lot of the warp had died down. And so you weren't able to get into or really out of this area of space for all this time. So the humans inside them have no clue what the Imperium is. They weren't conquered or incorporated into the Imperium of Man. They don't know who the Emperor is. They don't have any ideas about Space Marines, Imperial Guard, but they do have very similar technology because of STCs, right? And so there is human colonized planets within inside this area of space, and then there's a bunch of alien races that you've never seen. So I was using the Growlers from Vor were going to be in there. They were going to be one of the races that were on one of the planets that you could just kind of run into. They weren't on multiple planets. They were just on that one planet. So like there was a planet that wasn't being inhabited by any humans because of this. I was using the humans from AT-43, both the Viridians and the or not the Viridians, the UNA and the Red Bloc. That's two of the human factions in there, and I was using basically their story from AT-43 to tell their story of why they'd split off from each other. I'd added in a few corporations like Viridia from Void, using the Urban Wars miniatures. I'd planned on using them. I think I'd added a few others in there. And then the biggest reason we decided, the biggest reason that the warp storms had not abated was because of the influence of a race called the Skinny. No, not the Skinny. The Cogs from AT-43. And I might have renamed them. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But the story basically was that when these warp storms had hit, the Cog had created some type of barrier to prevent because they're super technologically advanced compared to they're basically like the last of the old ones, the very first of the old ones, creations. I basically was how I was telling the story, and there was very few of them left. But what was left was in this area of space, and so when the warp storms hit, they put up these barriers, but then when all the other warp storms had abated, these barriers had prevented chaos from entering the Verge, and so they stayed attacking these barriers for thousands of years. And the Tau, I just got to this area of space because the way Tau travel is a lot slower, and they're kind of trying to make their way into the Verge, and they establish a colony world, and I named that world Shiro. So it would become Sept World Shiro eventually, and the cadre that traveled there is kind of more about advancing Tau technology as well. So they had a lot of experimental technology with them. Hence, like why I have all these different older suits, newer suits. They're like testing grounds. And because of this testing, they also have a lot of the brand new races that are kind of being incorporated into the Tau Empire, right? So we have a lot of access to a lot of different auxiliary races that you wouldn't see outside or inside the rest of the Tau Imperium. The two biggest of these would be the Spug, which were really cool little bug uh, ants. They were like basically ants. I think I painted them in a green paint job. Uh, Now, if I had to do it all over again, I think I'd paint them red, like red ants. Um, I don't know why I didn't think about it back then. Like a dark red with some high red highlights. I think that would look really good. But so there's these ants called the spug, and it's presumed that the spug might have been an offshoot from uh, the vespid, and so we're just gonna have to find out, right? And then, well, we might find out. You never know. You might not. But then, other than them, we had the Spriggan, I think was what I called the nether race, which I used the models from uh, Mongoose Publishing's Skinnies for the uh, uh, Starship Troopers miniature game, right? So we had the Spriggan, and they were a super powerful ally for the Shero set with lots of information on this quadrant of space, because the world, the neighbors, the world that the Tau have decided to colonize is um, the homeworld for the Shero, and the Tau actually helped the Shero with a civil war. They choose one side over the other in my story, and then they so they've decided to choose this side over the other side, and they support them. And so there's this major Tau, our major Spriggan general, who's kind of joined the war council of the Tau commander. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting and detailed story. I thought possibly, and the area of space that they're trying to enter, I called the Verge. So the whole storyline was called Perils of the Verge, and with the weakening of these warp storms, it also allowed the Imperial Guard and the Space Marines to try to access this area as well. So as the Tau noticed that the Imperium of Man was trying to make a play also on this territory, they decided to strike out at the humans. So me and my brother fought many battles over the years, playing the invasion of the Verge space and the Tau and Imperium, trying to defend the areas that they've captured, as well as the planets that are supplying them. We played one game where there was the Tau had found like the major supply world for the Imperial war machine, so they decided to assault it, and I let my brother have a big defensive force built up, and so he had this big defensive force built up. With, I want to say he even had Space Marines in his force, and he had I was gonna get cut. Trenches and all kinds of bunkers and bastions and stuff, and then my whole Tau force basically deep striked into the game, if I'm remembering right, and it was a brutal, bloody slog, and he had Creed SS General for that, I believe. And the game ended with my Tau uh, engaging Creed. I want to say in close combat. A Tau Crisis commander engaged Creed in close combat, killing him and driving. But then we were driven off the planet through artillery strikes. So even though we managed to have a tactical victory in the fact that we were able to defeat the Imperial commander, he gained a decisive victory in the fact that he drove us off the world. So lots of storyline games like this. It was a fun little kind of a campaignish type storyline. I thought we had a lot of good times, a lot of fun. It continued over many years, even between playing in Oregon when we were there, all the way to where he came and visited me in El Paso, and we got my good friend Kevin involved and had Kevin's Angels of Death, which he had designed, and they were basically a offshoot of the Blood Angels. It's a really cool story my buddy Kevin came up with. Where this offshoot of the Blood Angels would have to defend. Oh no, they reinforced an attack on a world within inside the Verge. So this was a really fun game. So everything in my army came on the board in what we called a hidden deployment. So he didn't know where anything in my army was. Everything was hidden, but he had sensor readings. So what we've done is and I don't think I even knew where everything was, if I remember right. We took, I want to say, 6 pieces of paper, 6 little sheets of paper, cut them to the same size. They were thick sheet of paper, so you couldn't see through if anything was written on them. And we wrote if there was a reinforcement point or if it was a bogus sensor blip, and then he had to get within maybe 10 inches of it with a unit, and then the unit could scan the blip, and if the blip turned out to be an actual enemy, I would place the enemy on the board, kind of thing. Other than that, all my guys stayed in hidden deployment until they were discovered, because they didn't want the humans to know that they lived on this planet. And I was playing the Carmen, the guerrilla people from AT-43, and they had to hold out for 4 turns. And if they held out for 4 turns, they would get a group of Tau reinforcements that would help them out, because the Tau were trying to obviously gain information on the sector and make new allies. So the Carmen would obviously be ideal allies for the Tau. It's kind of the way we went with that story. It was a really fun game. I want to say he found one of my big units right off the bat with his first one of his first scans. So it started a massive engagement with a bunch of his guys going after this unit. I want to say that I don't remember what their name in AT-43 is, but it's the guerrillas with the big guns on their shoulder blades. So he was trying to get all these guys taken out before any of my other units were revealed. We had, like I said, a lot of good times. So, yeah, Perils of the Verge. At the time, I don't think there was really any way else to tell the story, so I had started telling the story through blog. So I think you might be able to still find that blog. It's been many years since I looked, but the blog was called Perils of the Verge, and I want to say I posted up a few of the battles on there, of the games we played. But I've also been slowly migrating a bunch of that information from those games, including photos, over to my Obsidian portal, which I've also, I believe, named Perils of the Verge. So if you were on my Obsidian portal and were able to find Perils of the Verge on there, it would be the same story. I think you have less photos on Obsidian portal than on the blog. A lot of that has to do right now with I don't have what they call an Ascendant membership, so I'm not able to add photos currently. But I'm slowly working on improving that, right? We'll get it back. Once I get some funding going. I kind of wish that I was able to build these with plastic glue instead of super glue. I've kind of moved away from super glue recently. I feel that plastic glue gives me a better bond. And it's funny that I say that, because back when I first started building these Warhammer models, I hated plastic glue. I didn't like. I built many irregular models using plastic glue, including quite a few Star Trek models. And one of the ones I had the worst time building with plastic glue is the USS Enterprise, the movie edition, or the NCC 101A. It had these struts. They go up to the warp nacelles, and these struts always were too heavy for the little bit of plastic that held them on. And I was a kid. I was only probably maybe 10 or 11 when I was building them. Probably wasn't patient enough, and constantly would have those pylons break and fall off. So many times that I actually made 2 or 3 kit bashes where the pylons, I developed a totally different ship, because the pylons were unusable to get to that secondary hull. So the secondary hull would get reworked. And maybe one day I'll break all those out and rebuild them, start painting them again. Who knows? That type of modeling might be in my twilight years, and once I get to the 60s, I probably won't be gaming like I do nowadays, and maybe I'll be back to modeling in that sense. I also tomorrow want to do a little showcase of my Slaves to Darkness army for Age of Sigmar, as well as my Chaos Undivided army for Warhammer Fantasy. So I'll probably combine them together into one show, or I might break it into 2. So look for that tomorrow or the next day. And then next week I'm going to showcase my Beastman army. My Beastman army is kind of broken into 3 kind of different parts. Depending on the era that it was purchased in, it has models from 3 different miniature producers, if not 4. So not everything looks exactly the same or super compatible. Oh no, where'd it go? Seems that one of my shoulder pads is missing here. I know I had it yesterday when I broke everything out. I'm going to assume one of my wife's cats knocked it on the ground, and I'll look for it in a bit and get that and put it on this guy. guys have any ideas for some videos coming up for me? I know I do have a 5 Leagues from the Borderlands battle report that I'm in the process of editing up. It's not fully edited. My plan is to hopefully have that up by Sunday, and then we'll see how things go. I do have a new job coming up, and I don't know how it's going to affect my filming schedule, because usually I film during the day when my daughter's gone to school. So I'm just going to build one more guy here on film, and then I think I'll cut this. I think we've probably been going for about an hour. But I will be posting pictures of the fully completed squads up on my Twitter and my Instagram, both with them just fully built, followed by them primed, and then finally probably in early to late July I'll probably get them painted. So just keep your eye peeled if you're interested in the progress on these guys. This is basically going to be my version of the Expendables. The Tau Expendables is, right? I think that's kind of cool. Although I don't think very many Tau are really expendable. They have so few Tau, and their lives are so short. They need to be able to get the most out of every life to push the Imperium back. Because if there's any one true good guy in Warhammer, it has obviously the Tau. And all you can hate on me all you want, but I never saw the Tau as communist. I always felt the Tau had a good design that they wanted, but I never saw it as communism. I think a lot of people that call the Tau communist don't really understand what real communism is. Or maybe they are true communist in the sense of communism, not really what we see as communism, as like, they're not what Russia or China or North Korea or Cuba kind of is. Just my opinion, and maybe I'm totally off base on that. You know, everybody's welcome to their own opinion, right? As I get flamed and hated on and lose all my subscribers on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter right now, right? I do love the aesthetics of Fire Warriors. I always kind of wish that a regular Fire Warrior squad could take... Oh, interesting. I'm going to have to rethink this guy's secondary gun. I just realized it doesn't have its hand on the bottom. When I was picking it out yesterday, I didn't pay attention. It's okay, I have plenty of guns in my bits box. Just gotta go in and grab one out. Or not guns, but arms. Make sure I find a Pathfinder arm so it has that shoulder piece, that pre-built-in shoulder armor. But yeah, anyways, so I always thought that a Fire Warrior squad should have access to different types of weapons. You know, Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Eldar, Dark Eldar. For the most part, even orcs, they all have like a special person they can put in each, their normal squads that has a different weapon type. And I guess you could technically put a pulse rifle in a squad full of pulse carbines, or you could put a pulse carbine in a squad full of pulse rifles. But that's not the same thing to me. I was thinking something more like, what would the Tau equivalent of a grenade launcher be? What would the Tau equivalent of a plasma rifle be? And a lot of these roles are kind of filled within their crisis suits. So that's why the Tau never got it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't look into it. And so that's kind of one of the things I've done with my I have a little squad of fire warriors in there, like my test bed squad. So they have the long barreled pulse rifle, which gives them a pulse rifle that has a 40-inch range. Just kind of a little fun roll that I made up for them. And I have a squad of a squad automatic weapon. So it's a fire warrior toting a burst cannon, which I thought was kind of an interesting take on like their version of a kind of like a heavy bolter guy or a heavy stubber type of guy. Just ideas to like make my Tau a little bit more unique than everybody else's. And a lot of these things, you can't use them in a tournament game, but you're playing a friendly game with a narrative campaign, and you have decent enough rules that you've came up with, and your friend agrees to them, and it's not break the game. I don't see any problem with it. My brother and me did many games where we played with rules like that. Lots of fun, friendly rules where you're kind of trying to get a unique flavor to your army and stuff. And I'd allow him to do all kinds of stuff as well. It wasn't like it was just always my stuff. He might have think that I always tried to give myself the advantage, but I never thought of it that way. I always wanted the game just a story. I always thought of myself as kind of a natural storyteller, and so that's always what I went for. Tell the story, make it a good story. With lots of memorable moments. Like, I'm talking about games, telling you guys about games that happened all the way back in, right now, 2007, 2008, 2009, some in 2010. That was the heyday of my gaming. I kind of slowly moved into tournament play slowly after 2010, which I want to say is probably my worst time ever in gaming. I had a lot of fun on the trips, going to places with my friends, but I never enjoyed the games in the tournaments. I'm a narrative type player. I enjoy telling the games, the models, telling the story I want to tell, and a lot of tournaments you need to build a list to be competitive, min-max type stuff, and it just doesn't speak to me. It's not my style, and not my modus operandi, I guess. Didn't have nearly as much fun in my tournament phase as I did when I was playing narrative games with family members. Or campaigns. Oh, I love campaigns. This Sunday on the Savage Brewski show, me and Brewski and hopefully my brother Patty will be on there, and we'll be talking about campaigns. So that should be a good listen to. John, Board Budgies, he's written and ran through quite a few different types of campaigns on his channel. He's put out little PDF pamphlets to help you run your own campaign. Within the Warcaster Neo Mechanica world, he's, I believe, helped write the new War Machine campaign to kick off their 4th edition campaign season, which has some really cool, unique things in it from what I've seen. So yeah, campaign play is by far my favorite type of gameplay, and I think the most intriguing. Besides, but I really do love narrative. So a combination of narrative or a narrative campaign. There's your money right there. Narrative campaign where you're telling a story and the story takes place over multiple games. I think that is it's just something really beautiful about that. So my 5 parsecs game will basically be a narrative campaign. It's all taking place within this one sector of space called the Ignis Quadrant, or not the Ignis Quadrant, the Ignis subsector. I built out my subsector. I built out my area of space using the rules from Traveller. So, any of you guys played Traveller the RPG? You all know all about how this works, but basically, I want to say it's an 8x12 hex gridded map, and that is a subsector of space. And then I want to say you take the same amount. I think it's 8x12 of these subsectors to make a sector. And I might be wrong on that. I have when I'm building myself, I have the book right in front of me, so it's like right there, and I won't make the mistakes. But I'm just going off of memory right now of what I did, and so I built this Ignis subsector, and I used, I think his name is E4H, maybe. Anyways, he just ran a Kickstarter for some support-free miniatures, and he called it, and he did a comic book to go with it, and I want to say he called it, instead of the Ignis sector, he called it Ignis Quadrant, but I wanted it to be a subsector. So I'm kind of using his quadrant, but as a subsector in my universe. But I've combined elements from the Zombicide Invader board game, as well as so Zombicide Invader board game, course-based board game, Dead Zone fluff, including all the different factions from Dead Zone. The Dead Zone factions are like the primary factions, but I've also included the Growlers from Vor. I love the Growlers from Vor. One of my favorite alien species. And there's also a few other things that I don't want to give you guys too many hints about, but I've also ported like Star Wars into the Dead Zone universe, so you'll see Star Wars aliens just exist in my Dead Zone world. I don't mind that so much. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're from Star Wars. I just like some of the aliens, like the Gamorrean guards. I like Jabba the Hutt as a main. He's gonna be one of the main rivals to another enemy that's kind of based off Kingpin. You guys will be getting some information about him in a few days, maybe even tomorrow, as I post up the background histories for characters on my Instagram and my Twitter. If you're not following my Instagram and Twitter, you probably should give it a shot, or a look at least, because that's where I post a lot of my background histories for miniatures, and then eventually those will all get uploaded with way more in-depth detail than my Obsidian Portal is. It grows. Just gotta wait to get that Obsidian Portal Ascendant member back to get some bigger posts in there and some cooler things. So I'm really kitting these guys out with a lot of little details here and there of a lot of different things on them. I think, like, since they're a kill team, I wanted to have them a lot more kitted out. I thought about green stuffing some cloaks for them. I've seen that done, but it doesn't really fit my style, I guess. Maybe I'll... No, I won't. I was like, maybe I'll do one for... No, I won't. Change my mind. I am going to have to do a little green stuff strap here for this rifle. I don't have the other part to that strap. Is it going to fit? So, I don't know if you guys have ever used this accelerator, but I like it. It really is useful for a lot of different things. There we go. Yeah, I'll have to put a strap on there. Oh, I know what I can do. I'll just have to pull one out. If it will fit, I might use the Crute strap. Crute obviously have some straps for their rifles. They have tons of Crute bits in there, so very usable. It's funny, I said I was only going to build one more, and now I'm like 4 more down in. Oh well, we'll just finish them off. We're not that... I won't be 100% done. I got some clipping work to do here, and I'm going to try to design a heavy weapon for this guy, so I'm probably just going to not finish this guy. This one guy, I'll just going to glue this backpack on him, and then he's going to be complete for now, because I am going to try to put a heavy weapon on him. I got to design the weapon still. Maybe I'll do a YouTube short or something on how I did that weapon. Just keep your eyes peeled. We'll see. You'll see. Maybe it'll just be a bunch of photos. Thinking about doing it as a burst cannon, but I've also have ideas on doing a grenade launcher. So I have some old pictures from converted websites on some of the conversions I've seen people do. I'm going to check those out before I do that. So I have an arm to find, a strap to find. I need to clip this guy's head a little bit so I can put that helmet on his belt loop. Other than that, this army's pretty much complete. Who knows? I don't know the rules for Kill Team right now. The new edition of Kill Team. I really haven't read through them. I think I've heard that they're online for free. Maybe I will check them out, and if they look reasonable, I don't know. My little local games workshop store, that's not gonna work, has a group of people that go down there and play Kill Team. So maybe if I get this army complete in time, I can get down there and get some games in with them. Alright, we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm going to cut this pistol out of this sheath, or this holster, because I want the pistol holster to be on his hip, but he has the pistol in his hand, so I don't want the pistol inside it. Right. Been a while since I did any broken ring like this. Sometimes it makes me sad when I have to ruin a good piece of plastic like that, but it's not. I have plenty, believe me. I've never even used one of these, and you get like 3 per box, so I have probably a dozen of them in that box, in my bits box over there. Put that on his hip, right there. Let's see, this arm might be better. My plan actually is to put a bunch of these pistols on the tankers, but I need to put one on a tanker and see if he still fits down into the turret. Because each tank comes with like a tank pilot, right? And a lot of my tanks, I leave the hatch open so they can the hatch is open so they can put those. Oh, sorry, excuse me. The hatch is open on a lot of my tanks, so I can put the drivers or the tank commanders down in the tanks. I even have the old Forge World tank commander. I don't know how many people have that guy. He's relatively old. He came out probably 2004, 2005 time frame would be my guess. I only have ever seen one of them. I don't think too many people have them, but maybe I'm mistaken. Well, he's an interesting little kit, and I'm actually in the process. He's on my paint table. He's one of the models to be painted up rather soon. Been primed for years. So we'll give him a paint up soon, and possibly put a pistol holster on his hip to give him a little bit more uniqueness to him. Alright, well, so there we go. That is 9 of the 10-man team done, minus my heavy weapon guy over here, and this guy needs an arm that I have to dig out of my box, and this head needs to get clipped up, but I don't want to do it with just the knife. I'm going to clip up this helmet, put the helmet on his waist. So keep your eyes peeled. These guys will probably be primed today and put up on the Instagram tonight or tomorrow morning. We'll post, I'll post them on Instagram tomorrow night. So if you are Instagram and Twitter, so if you want to give me some ideas for the name of this little strike force, put them in the comments or message me on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll take those into consideration, obviously. Thanks for giving me the watch, guys. If you like, please subscribe. Give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter if you want. I'll have a good day, and hopefully I can get back to painting soon. Hopefully my neck heals up for y'all.